Welcome, everyone, to Pursuing Joy, where we share audacious stories of joy-infused strength. I have Diane, who I met at a FEM summit, I think over 2 years ago now. So, Diane, go ahead and introduce yourself, your business, and why you love the color purple.
I was going to say, I noticed that you've got purple on today.
Right.
Thank you. I love it. Yeah, so my name's Diane Menser, and my company's Diane Integrates. I am a born second in command. That's how I've kind of spent my whole life, my whole career. The last 5 years when I was in a W-2 position was as an EOS integrator. It was a fraction of my full-time job. And originally I had thought about being a fractional integrator. And as I started down that path, what I realized is that I really want to help the people who are like me so they can help their business owners. And the people who have come up from within the business who aren't aware of all the options that are available out there in terms of business operating systems, understanding how brain science communication strategies can really make things run smoother for them, and being able to be a resource, because it's a pretty lonely position when you're like in between the rest of the staff and the business owner, and you're trying to figure it out as you go. And so that's when I made the shift to being a coach and advisor for that second in command person, really helping them partner more effectively with the business owner and bring out their inner superhero. It's in there. They're just not aware of everything that's available to them to help them be more successful. And so helping that and providing a safe space, somebody they can talk through ideas with who gets it. I know I would often go to talk to people and my friends, their eyes start to glaze over after a little while, or they're, asking me to run through the EOS language. Like, what does that mean again? Like, it would just be so nice to be able to talk to somebody who gets it. And so I provide that safe space through coaching and peer groups.
Okay. All right. And purple?
Oh, purple. Well, I love purple. Well, so I'm born in February, so I say I come by it honest because violet's the flower and amethyst is the stone. But in the 90s, I've always loved purple. I had pink and purple suede saddle shoes when I was a little kid. But in the 90s, there was a time where it was kind of hard to find purple. And so I started seeking it out more and just gravitating, when I'd find it, I'd buy it, started wearing it a little bit more. And it was just kind of gradual. Same with the hair. It kind of started as a joke. I was getting my hair done and we were just going to take it from like this faded, messy sun-in red, kind of color back to like a brown. And my stylist handed me the book and I was looking at the options and there was a plum one. I was joking around. I was like, oh, Barb, I want plum. She's like, well, I could mix some of that into your brown. I was like, oh, really? Yeah, let's do it. And just over the years, it just got more and more bold. And now it's been this for about 3 years and I'm sticking with it. I love it.
That's good.
And yeah, I'm sticking with it. So
yeah, and it makes you memorable.
It does make me memorable. Sure. Yes, it does. And, some people are like, oh, purple, royalty. And yeah, it is associated with royalty, but it's also a very healing color. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's much more about that artistic, creative healing than sort of a royalty approach, because I'm all about, being together with people, not being separate from people. And royalty to me kind of implies a bit of a separation. And it's really, for me, it's about joining together joyfully.
Right. Okay. So I was telling you that I was feeling like a little sluggish today. Sometimes it's the weather. It's been a little bit like we needed some clouds and rain around here to take down the temperature a little bit, but sometimes I just need sunshine to thrive. But overall, I think I'm feeling slightly discouraged, like as a business owner and a fairly new one at that.
Yeah.
And I believe you had already started Diane Integrates when we met at the FEM.
Yeah, I had started it, but I was still pretty much working full time. I started at the beginning of 2023, but really didn't exit from the company I was working for until the end. And even when I went part-time, it wasn't really that much part-time. So and then I made some shifts. So I consider my launch of what it is now has been a little over a year because I made some tweaks between the beginning of 2024 and summer 2024. But I totally feel you, so I understand it does.
Yes.
It does get frustrating. So yeah, what are you struggling with?
So I think I mean it's just I feel like I'm just in like a stuck, like discouraging kind of spot. And I know that you'll think about this and approach this differently because just because I know your frustrations are wonder and invention, and one of my geniuses is wonder. And so I think my strategy probably when I'm like this is to wonder more and like what can we change, what can be different. And I would assume your strategy would be more like what system can I put in place to make to do this, or to create a funnel. Or so what do you do when you feel like you are kind of in a slump, or you're not getting the amount of business that you want, or something that you tried didn't work out how you thought it would?
Yeah, and I totally understand that spiral of starting to think and wonder and change because mine's discernment. So then I start to
Right.
look at everything and go back and pick it apart and how do I do it? How do I do it? I'll tell you the thing that gets me out of a slump faster than anything is connecting with people, whether it's over Zoom, whether it's chatting with smart people. You know, I do a lot of commenting on LinkedIn as well as posting. I like to go out and see what people are talking about and start engaging in those interesting conversations. And that just brings me back to the purpose of why I'm doing this, and that I really love partnering with people and helping people and just having really interesting conversations with people. And whenever I start to do that, it's like things start to open up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm talking through what I'm doing with somebody, I'm always writing down notes because I'll say something in a new way and I'm like, oh, that's how I should be saying that. Or,
Right.
oh, here's a great post idea. And also getting that validation, because even if the customers aren't there yet in the moment, or when things are a little bit slow, when you talk to other people who are working with business owners or working with your target audience, they see the value in what you're doing. And it affirms that, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I am on the right track. This is needed. I'm going in the right direction. It's just normal that it takes longer than we want. And when we start locking down and letting that scarcity grab hold of us, we start to see less. And when we go back to talking to people and opening up our world and seeing how other people are saying things and remind ourselves of that abundance, that there are so many people out there that need help, what we have to do is figure out how do we get our message in front of the right people at the right time, and that there's always some tweaking and refining associated with that. But when you know in your core, and I think clarity breaks help with that too,
Mm-hmm.
like just taking that quiet time and it's like, no, I know this is right. I know it is needed. And people aren't hearing me yet, but they will, because I'm going to keep at it. You know, when you've got that feeling, it's like, no, I know this is needed. And then you just keep at it. But connecting with people and getting that validation and getting their thoughts on like, how is this resonating with you? Maybe ask a couple referral partners, hey, you know, I'm not getting the response I expected. How is this resonating with you? What could I be doing differently?
Okay. Yeah, actually you just gave me an idea. And I knew I was like, I'm not in the mood to do a podcast today. Like I felt that. And then I was like, but I know if I do the podcast, that will make me feel better. Like that's what gives
Right.
me energy. So, and yeah, what you just said struck me because I was noodling on a referral partnership communication today, actually. And speaking of LinkedIn, so I don't know if you've noticed this, and I don't know if it's like an algorithm thing or whatever, but I feel like there's been an uptick in the conversation about the visionary integrator relationship.
Yes,
So
I
why do you
agree.
think that is?
Um, I think it's a few things. I think a few more thought leaders are speaking out about it a little bit more. I think that also EOS is doing a little bit more talking about it from the EOS worldwide stage, where it
Okay.
used to be more just about the visionary. They're digging a little bit more. I mean, Rocket Fuel is an amazing book, and I don't think it gets enough press or enough mention out there. But I think that people are continuing to realize that that relationship is the business's superpower. How those two work together impacts everything. And actually, it can be the superpower, and it can be your kryptonite. Ooh, that's an idea.
There you
All right,
go.
write that down.
There you
Superpower or
go.
kryptonite.
There we go.
Yeah, because when it is bad, it can ruin everything.
Mm-hmm.
It really can ruin everything. And when it's good, it everything speeds up. Things run smoother, smooth is fast. It just you're seeing things from different angles. You're collaborating. Everything you're doing is getting stronger because you've got that full picture of things. When you really realize how you capitalize on that strength, that synergy, that dynamic, that is the business's superpower. Because when you have those two people in the right seats doing their unique genius areas and just crushing it, they are happier. Everything's working better for them, which means everything's working better for everybody in the company, because that flows down. And then that goes out to home life and customers and stakeholders. And that's, it's really making the world a better place when you can help those two get in sync because of how big the impact is.
Yes. And I am not a coach. But I have accidentally, I guess, gotten into the visionary integrator conversation when talking to them about Working Genius. And it was very enlightening to me when I like just pitching a Working Genius workshop, or even the recruiting, and having the dialogue about using the Working Genius as the consultation for that, and the visionary and integrator being in the same room to make this decision. And I can see right away that the relationship dynamics have a lot to do with the fact that normally the visionary is going to be in that wonder invention phase, and thinking like that and speaking like that. And then it's going to be more of the tenacity and enablement that is coming out of the integrator. And so even if they both can see, oh yeah, Working Genius, it's a great way to go, they can sometimes be saying the exact same thing and going in the exact same direction, but communicating it in two different ways, or seeing the fruit of it or the goal in a different way. And there's this communication piece there that seems to be where the breakdown happens. And about Working Genius, we've done a webinar together.
Yeah.
So can you speak to some of that as to like what you have seen?
Yeah, and you are absolutely 100% correct with that. And it's funny because in a coaching session the other day, I had a visionary and integrator who were in agreement and didn't know it because of how they were saying things. They each thought the other one thought the opposite of what they did.
Right.
So, and it's like, so we got talking and they're like, wait, we agree? It was like, lightning bolt moment for both of them, because they really thought the other one had a completely different opinion, because they're so often talking past each other.
Right.
They have such different communication styles. And we usually do not think about, how do I have to say this in the way for the person receiving it to hear me? We think about, this is what I want to say, and I want to say it now. And we haven't checked in. Is it a good time? One of my favorite examples, and this happened to me and so many others, because it comes up in just about every conversation I have with COOs, is the CEO came in with an idea, and my brain immediately goes to, how am I going to make this happen mode? And so
right.
I started firing off questions. Okay, what about this, but this, and how does that impact this? They weren't ready for that conversation. It wasn't the right time for that conversation. And the way I started firing them off, because I move fast and I think fast, they were feeling attacked. I didn't realize it. So then all of a sudden I realize I'm not getting ideas, and I find out that she's going to somebody else with her ideas and taking somebody else off projects and getting them going on things because I was just shooting everything down. And maybe part of me was shooting it down, and part of me didn't fully understand because at that time I didn't realize how important it is to take the time to ask some of those deeper questions and ask those questions in a thoughtful way where it's from true curiosity, so you really understand what's going on. And so framing questions helps with that, like, oh, I really want to understand this. Can I ask you some questions now? If not, when would be good? So they understand that you're trying to understand what's in their head, not just shoot down their idea. And then what I talk to visionaries about is that when you're sharing information with your integrator or any other systems person that you've got on your team, they want and need more detail. So if you can fill them in, share maybe a little bit, maybe feel like you're oversharing because you're giving them a little bit more of that background, or let them know what type of idea it is. Like, hey, put this on the list. Let's talk about it at some point in the future. Or, hey, this is really important to me and I want us to do it. And that helps your receiver knowing, okay, what am I doing? Am I just writing this down? I don't need to think about it right now. Oh, this is a maybe someday. Oh, this is important. I need to start to think about it right away. And when you are proactive in providing that information, it makes the communication a lot easier. And then I also talk to COOs a lot about communicating in a different way with their visionaries in terms of, like, give them the topic, let them know what you need from them. I need approval. I need your insights. I just want to share some information so they know what frame of mind to be in as they listen to the rest. And then just top key points, really, like, talk in bullets, think in bullets. Your emails, start it off with bullets. Don't use don't use either or questions because you'll get an answer like yes. Like, do you want A or B? Yes. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Really thinking about how you do that in a different, and then you're ready with the details. You've got the details. They ask questions, but you're presenting the information in a way that they can hear it. And it really is like speaking different languages.
No, and I know, so because so my geniuses are wonder and discernment, and yours are enablement and discernment. I always say, because the discerner, like when you have wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, tenacity, discernment is right there in the middle, asking a lot of questions, like kind of stopping the process. And what just occurred to me when you were talking is wonder and invention, the visionary typically is going to want the validation first, because even though the questions can be coming from curiosity, or questions are coming from a place of how am I going to do this, questions tend to sound like you're skeptical or suspicious of the idea. And so the reframing of those in that way definitely makes sense. And not starting with that, because I know I'm like, okay, great, and right. So exactly that.
Because we're so conditioned to go into fix-it mode. We're not conditioned to have the deeper, curious conversation.
Right.
It's a habit that you really have to work on building. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. It's a big shift in how we've been trained to communicate, how we've been trained to succeed. Getting it done fast, figuring it out quick, being a self-starter, all of these things, which are great and are especially important, like in times of crisis, or, when things are happening fast and you need people to just take the ball and run with it. But there are also times where that collaboration is important, and what you co-create can be so much stronger, whether it's with your visionary or with your team. Sometimes we as leaders think that we have to have all the answers, but then you start talking to the people on your team and you get insights that you don't have just because they're seeing things differently. And it's not that one's better than the other, but everybody's got different angles of how they're approaching things based on their position and their geniuses and their life experience.
Right.
And so when you open the door to accessing all of that, everything that you create gets so much better.
Yeah. So I had Grace Gavin on here earlier a couple of weeks ago, and she's the co-author of No Honesty, KNOW, and we talked about we think we're being more efficient, right? If we're just like, okay, that's great, and now let's do this, and let's think about this, and let's go here. But then when you skim over all of that, you actually then have to go back and undo some of the things that you thought were more efficient, and now you've actually cost yourself more time by not communicating appropriately.
And sometimes you're still solving the surface level issues versus
Right.
the bigger issue that's causing these things to keep bubbling up.
All right. So I'm going to, well, you decide which direction you want to go with this, because this can be more personal, more professional, however you want to take this. But can you share a turning point in your story where things didn't seem like they were such a joyful situation, but you can see now in hindsight where things have turned around?
Yes. So it's interesting because it ties work and personal together.
Okay.
But, I had a full-time job. I was integrator. I was writing proposals. I was leading some teams. I was filling a lot of seats, doing a lot of things, which I did like the variety of it. Was doing a lot of things, and I had just heard about fractional stuff. This is the end of 2022. Just heard about fractional stuff, and I thought, hey, maybe we could get some fractional help for some of these things that we're dealing with that could help us advance the business. And so Nancy Fox hosts a monthly fractional networking session, and I'm not even sure how I found out about her. I think I just saw her on LinkedIn, and I attended her session and was just blown away by all the people that I met. Like all these amazing fractional people doing interesting things. And because we were in government contracting, I didn't find anybody that was a good fit for us, but I really enjoyed the session. And I was like, well, let me go again and see. And I started, a couple of the same people were there having these deeper conversations, and everybody said, even though fractional can be hard, they were so glad that they did it and they went out on their own and they wished they had done it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what inspired me to make a shift to something where I was doing the part that I loved, because I loved the integrator role. I loved that piece of it, that creating, that moving the business forward, that being that strategic partner. And I wanted to let go of some of the other pieces, especially proposal writing. Especially the proposal writing. But that really changed my life. And because I decided to make the shift. And like I said, originally I thought I was going to be a fractional integrator, so I named my company Diane Integrates.
Mm-hmm.
But because I'm coaching integrators and COOs and helping them integrate all these different aspects, I feel like the company name still works, so I'm not changing it. And the other one that was more personal, but it also happened kind of through work. I was reading The Power of Habit. This was like back in 2011 or something like that. I was reading The Power of Habit, which is an amazing book. But it really, that and The Charisma Myth were like these game-changing books that I read around that time. And it uncovered the fact that happiness is a choice and joy is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that something happens and we become happy or we become joyful. It's you choose to live in that space. And it took me a few years to really own that
Mm-hmm.
and really incorporate that. But my life got so much better when I did, because it's a choice. I get to be happy all the time. Sure, you're still going to have to deal with hard things, but when you are in that happy and joyful place and you're looking for happiness and you're looking for joy, you're much more likely to find it. And when you're feeling frustrated and down and you're focusing on that,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like happiness is just going to come jump in front of you and say, hey,
right,
here I am, be happy. Like, because you're not looking for it and you're not taking actions that lead you to that. And of course, there are still things that make me happier, you know, but like happy as a rule, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it was kind of like going back to that. And I know that I had that when I was young. That was very much my personality. And I had let the demands of life and things that had happened, I was reacting instead of proactively
Right.
choosing how to live my life.
Yeah. No, that I get that. And it took me working genius is what got me to that point, because joy felt like this warm and fuzzy type of abstract thing. And you are actually, and your genius is enablement. So your joy is actually helping
Yeah.
others, right? And it's a disservice to do something that's not joyful to you when someone else finds joy in it. So that I can see where, and I mean, that's where I took a professional shift as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so it just meanders. Once you believe that, it meanders into all
It
facets
does.
of
Yeah.
life. So and I've had this discussion with a couple of working genius facilitators that have started their own business, coaching or team building or whatever. So those who have more of the visionary type geniuses and mindset are like, in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to have these things. So tell me how entrepreneurship looks like for you, as wonder invention being your frustrations.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I look back at, and I'm an integrator with visionary tendencies. I think my visionary score is like in the 70s or something like that.
Okay.
So and it's funny, I look back, I've always had these little side projects that I never, you know, it's like, I don't want to do this as a career because that would, you know, but, you know, I did hand painted clothing and I did craft shows. I made jewelry and I did craft shows. I did rhinestone work and I sold it, and I
Okay.
did custom rhinestone work for a competition dance uh, friends that were, you know, we did country and swing dancing, and I would rhinestone all these costumes. I look at them now, I'm like, wow, I did that. That was pretty wild, you know. Like,
Right.
so I have some of that visionary kind of stuff. I teach fitness classes mainly for fun and to keep myself working out. So I always had these little side things. So I think that was my visionary sort of creeping out into, that was my outlet for those. I definitely am more focused on, I don't have tons of ideas coming to me about how I want to change what I'm doing. I have my model, you know, I do the peer, like kind of three things: the peer groups, role clarity, and one-on-one coaching. And I just keep looking for ways to tweak and refine. So like my
Right.
discernment comes out in my entrepreneurship. I'm not like, oh, and maybe let's do this. And oh, you know, I don't have a big list of directions that I want to take the company. It's very much um, just about, I like being a solopreneur. You know, I definitely want to outsource some things as my business grows, but you know, I don't see myself like having a team. I'm not trying to grow a business that I'm going to sell. It's very much about um, helping the people. So I think my visionary, my entrepreneurship is more about the passion and the mission that I
Okay.
have for helping people, not the wonder big ideas that I want to take to the world.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I like what you said about kind of tapping into like childlike kind of imagination. I typically ask in an interview process what someone's dream job is, especially if I'm getting the vibe that your resume says you can do this, but I see no
Mm,
enthusiasm for it whatsoever.
right.
So like taking them back, and one, that question is helpful in the sense that if I am hiring for a receptionist, right, and you tell me that your dream job was to answer phones, like I don't believe you.
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
not like you're not actually answering this honestly, first of all. But
Yeah.
so I'm always like, if there was no money involved, if you were in a utopian universe, like what did you want to be when you were growing up? What was the dream there? And I relate it back more to tasks. It's not that has to
Yeah.
come,
Yeah.
align with the job. But for me, I was always like, I started like a neighborhood newspaper. I had a library that I would check out my books, and there are different things that I can look back now and say, okay, this was kind of a path that makes sense. And I think now, even with like fractional work, like you saying, okay,
Mhm.
now I knew that was
Mhm.
available. I think with AI, which is scary for a lot of people, I think that it actually allows for more fractional work, right? Like that AI can help supplement
Mhm.
some of the time,
Right.
and then you can to me the answer is that you would just have more clients. You wouldn't just be working for one company.
Yeah.
And so and I don't think you have to necessarily have an entrepreneurial spirit to do fractional work. But I do think it is somewhat of an answer or an idea for those who feel like their jobs are being dwindled down because of
Mhm.
AI, because it really is just a supplement. Um, and
Yeah.
and helps with the time, and just looking at jobs differently than 40 hours as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and how we can do things. So tell me what is currently bringing you joy. I know you're a beach girl, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
I love the beach. I go, usually it's just 1 week a year, but I'm really, I want to make more of an effort to get there in the fall, like off season
Oh
before it
yeah.
gets cold. I love walking on the beach. Walking on the beach is one of my favorite things in the world to do, even if it's not, super hot out, just to be at the beach and walk. I actually went a couple of years ago. I went in the fall. I think it was in September. I went and it wound up being super cold. I had 3 pairs of pants, I just put everything on. I'm like, I am here. I am walking on the beach. I had my hood up. It was crazy windy, but I wanted just to be out there and be by the water. Um, so yeah, I love, and my beach week, I just don't want to do anything other than be on the beach. I just
Hmm.
want to be there, listen to the waves, watch the waves. I do absolutely love that. There's a little lake in my neighborhood that I go walk around sometimes, and um, it's just very calming. I like being by water. That that brings me joy. Um, I Yeah, I have a lot of fun things that I love doing in my life, and I make sure that those get woven in,
Hmm.
even when I'm busy. That I find time to like take those breaks and do something joyful. I usually go dancing on Friday nights because swing dancing now the country isn't as big, but it just being there and with people and moving, and it's the music, and it's just fun. It is just fun. So I love doing that. But I'm really, really fortunate in that I absolutely love pretty much all the aspects of being a solopreneur, coach and advisor, because it took me a while to get comfortable having the sales conversations,
Oh,
or it took me a while learning how to do the copywriting for LinkedIn so that your message really comes through and you're not just babbling on,
yeah. Right, right, right,
in my usual detailed
right.
integrator
Yeah.
way, that
Mhm.
nobody's going to read. How do you write differently so that it shows up? And now that I've learned how to do it, it's like I even enjoy that. And I know one of your questions that you kind of sent before this was, how does knowing your geniuses help you show up differently?
Mhm.
And one thing that it did for me is, um, starting with a blank page is just so hard. And so having a template, or putting an idea into chat and saying, giving me a draft, and I'll completely rewrite it. I mean, by the time it's done, it looks nothing like what came out of it, but it's just having that something to use my discernment to pick apart, like how do
Yes.
I invent these things. And so having that thought partner, sometimes I use chat as a thought partner. Like, I need to create a resource around X. What are some ideas? Should I do a checklist or, and it'll give me a couple ideas. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's a format that would work. And then it's, the content, everything is all still mine. I do not and will not ask chat to just generate something and then me use it. Anything that I share with my clients, I might have chat help me edit it. I might have them help me figure out a good way to phrase it so that it's catchy or that people understand what I'm talking about. But the content, I am sharing strategies that are trusted and proven, and things that I know work when I'm working with my clients. But using that to get beyond my wonder invention challenges has been really helpful.
I had someone tell me, a working genius facilitator, to say ChatGPT or AI overall should be used for your frustrations, right? Like, you lean on your geniuses, and the things that you're not, that frustrate you or drain you, see where AI can come in. Because for me, it's the tenacity kind of things. Like, I don't want to write a contract. And I also, if I'm one, I actually have used it quite a bit because I'm posting on several social media platforms, and I'm always like, oh, maybe this is not appropriate, but maybe this isn't necessarily a LinkedIn type posting.
Right.
And so I'm like, ChatGPT, help me either tell me I shouldn't do this,
Right.
or tell me how I can, phrase it differently. And so and it's helpful overall, like you said, when you are a solopreneur, to use that. And like you said, use it as a supplement, as an add-on, right? We're not taking away the human aspect of what we have to offer with our geniuses and just with who we are overall.
Right. Yeah. And training one makes a lot of sense. I resisted that, and I finally did it. And I put like everything that I've written for like the last 6 months. So it would see my style, it would understand my knowledge base and have that, and kind of trained it. And that made such a difference in the quality of stuff that I would get back. And it's based on my content. So like when it's editing something, it has all this other stuff that I've written in its knowledge bank, and can keep that. So that's been helpful too. But it is interesting to try, and I haven't tried to automate any workflows or anything yet. I know that there are people that do, and it's like, okay, that's something I should probably learn a little bit more about, because as a solo, when you're doing everything, even if it's just, preparing a draft or something like that, there's times that can be really helpful.
Yes. And I think going back to when you were talking about the visionary and integrator and the communication of, like, they were saying they had agreed, but they didn't know it. I think that the only way that they can know that, right, is having that third party in there to say, that human third party, right, to say, hey, look at this, look how you're actually coming together, and this isn't the argument that you think it is.
Being able to facilitate those conversations. And I don't have any clients where we always meet both people. Usually I'm coaching either the business owner or the second in command, and then the other one's brought in periodically. But it is interesting, and they do get to have conversations with that particular client. Every time that the three of us have been together, something has come up that the other one didn't know about or didn't understand that that's how the other person was feeling. And I did like a role clarity exercise with two business owners, co-owners of a business, and we worked through their roles. And we were working through the one person's role, and the other person was on the call, and they're like, "What? I didn't know you hated doing that." And they were like, "I didn't know that you enjoyed doing that." So there was two tasks that they had a 50-50 split, and one person hated one and the other person hated the other. And so they each needed to stay involved, but instead of 50-50 split, one did, went to like, 2/3, 1/3,
Right.
even a switch. So they were still involved, but so much less, and they got time back and their stress reduced. And if we hadn't had that conversation, they would have kept going for years, each of them doing something that they hated with the other one not knowing that they
Right.
hated it, because
Yes.
you just don't wind up in those conversations.
Yes. No. And I mean, I think Working Genius gives the language to where it's not, it's just, this is how, this is how I'm built. This is who I
Right.
am. And instead of feeling guilty or walking in and judging, then you just
Right.
can say, hey, this is why I'm not productive in this area. And if you are, then let's team up. Right.
Yeah.
Like, it totally makes sense. Diane, can you tell us what is the best way to get in touch with you? And do you typically intersect as in have initial conversations via LinkedIn, in person, at conferences? Do you think that it's more with the visionary or the integrator, from the set
It
off?
really varies. So LinkedIn is a terrific way to get to me, very easy. And my LinkedIn, you can type Diane Menser. A lot of people misspell my name because the TZ throws people
Right.
off, which I totally get. So Diane Integrates, if you put, that's like in LinkedIn, if you do Diane Integrates or Diane Menser, I'll come up. That's a great way to, and also to get a feel for my philosophy and approach, because I post there very regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the CEO that comes to me and says, I have an integrator, or the visionary, I have an integrator and I see a lot of promise in them. Or, we're starting out on EOS and, we're all learning it. They could use some support. There's sometimes it's that they know that, or I had one of my new clients, he's like, I've had a business coach. I love my business coach and I know what a difference it makes in my life. I want my COO to have the same thing.
Okay.
And so I'm going to start working with them next month. Really excited about that. So, and then other times it's the COO that comes to me and like, I don't know what to do anymore. I need help. I'm feeling isolated. I'm dealing with these challenges constantly. And no matter what I try, I've still got the same challenges. So it really varies. I have a link on my website, which is dianeintegrates.com, for a 15-minute conversation. That's good to find out, if it makes sense to talk further. And then if it does, then we'll have a deeper discovery call. But if somebody wants to just spend a few minutes to see if it makes sense to talk further, I think that takes some pressure off when people are reaching out too. It's like, I'm not committing a whole half hour. We're just going to have a quick call and, see if it even makes sense to continue talking. Right. But yeah, it's like I said, that relationship really is a business's superpower. And I think what a lot of business owners don't realize, and sometimes feel nervous about having a COO, especially when it's their first time, is there is no set rule for what it has to look like. And like you're talking about, everybody's geniuses are a little bit different. Focus on your geniuses. Define your CEO role, your business owner, your visionary role in a way that suits you. And then you get your puzzle piece to match. And it often starts with somebody that, and I'm a big fan of starting to hand off to somebody who's in the business, somebody you already know and trust. You already know you have a good working relationship with them. When people try to jump into it and just do it, like, okay, I'm going to do it, and you're just going all in, often they're not really ready to let go because they haven't thought about it. Then they've got this new untested person. I know I talked to one, it was somebody that was in the company that they had gone through 4 integrators in less than a year, because the business owner wasn't in the right mindset. So he would bring these people in and then felt challenged by them or didn't trust them. And then the result of that on the staff is, the next time you bring somebody in, they're not going to pay attention. It's like, oh, they're going to be here a month or two.
Right.
So it's really, really dysfunctional for the company that way. So do it in baby steps. And that's where someone like me is super helpful as you're raising somebody up, because it's not the expense of bringing in a full fractional. And then I, still bring that expertise as well as the coaching expertise that really help raise somebody up. So when somebody's being promoted from within, I'm working with somebody who's being moved up into the COO role. And so it's really helping them deal with the challenges, figure out what it's going to look like for them. And we always start with whatever their most pressing concerns are, and then use that to dig deeper and
Right.
okay, what is, underlying, and kind of get into that. So really, that's a really long answer to your question, but
No, that's great.
it depends, because there's different reasons that people come to me.
Right. And I know that your enablement and discernment are perfect geniuses for integrating the visionary and the integrator relationship. Thank you so much for your insights today. And I'm so glad that we got to chat again. Hope to talk again soon.
Thanks, Julie. I really enjoyed it too.